We didn't fight. We just stopped calling. And by the time she said, "I have no one else," I was already breaking in silence behind a locked door. I told my sister I was fine when I wasn't, and now I might never forgive myself for it. She asked me if I wanted to talk. That was right after our dad's funeral, in the kitchen, while people were still picking over the cold catering trays, and someone had knocked over a cup of coffee on the rug. I remember I was holding onto a paper plate with one half-eaten brownie on it, like it was the only solid thing in the room. She just looked at me and said, "Hey, you okay?" And I smiled. I smiled. Like a sociopath. Like someone who wasn't 2 seconds away from breaking apart in front of the coffee machine. I said, "Yeah, I'm okay." She didn't push. She never really did. That was always our dynamic. She was the older sister, the steady one. The one who made the PowerPoints for our dad's care plans when he got sick. The one who knew the difference between palliative and hospice before the rest of us could pronounce it. I was the other one. The fun one, I guess. The storyteller. The improviser. The let's not think about it right now one. And I kept that role going, even when it was killing me. Especially then. So she didn't push, and I didn't crack. I stayed through the rest of the day like I was watching myself from 6 feet outside my body, hugging her husband, thanking guests I didn't remember inviting, drinking wine I didn't want. Then I went back to my apartment, shut the door behind me, and let it fall out of me in this truly ugly, silent kind of grief. No sobbing, no screams. Just this continuous pressure in my chest, like someone was squeezing my lungs from the inside. My phone stayed quiet that night. Actually, it stayed quiet for 3 days. And I couldn't even blame her. I told her I was fine. But here's the thing. When you tell someone you're okay, they start to believe you don't need them. And after a while, even you believe it. Until it's too late to say otherwise. We didn't grow up in a house where emotion was welcomed exactly. Our mom was, I don't want to say cold, but stoic. Midwestern, church lady, casserole-type stoic. Our dad was softer, more sentimental, but it's like something in our family made vulnerability feel inappropriate. Like there were only certain acceptable times for emotion, graduation, weddings, maybe a Christmas toast if things got weirdly nostalgic. So I guess it doesn't surprise me that my sister and I loved each other quietly. Not unconditionally. Just quietly. After Dad died, we started drifting. I don't know how else to put it. It wasn't a fight. There's no big scandal. Just space. A space that filled with work projects, unanswered texts, delayed callbacks, and polite, "Let's catch up soon," lies we both told too easily. She had 2 kids, a job, a husband, a mortgage, and I don't know. I had freelance gigs, some identity crisis soup I was swimming in, and this increasing ache whenever I saw pictures of her on my feed with the kids and their coordinated Halloween costumes. I used to be in those. Hell, I used to make those. But I never said anything. Because saying something would mean admitting the absence hurt. And I didn't want to be the one who missed her more. I think I just kept hoping we'd swing back to each other naturally. That some gravitational pull would bring her back to me. It didn't. Fast forward 8 months. I was sitting in this shitty diner across from a guy I'd been trying really hard to pretend I liked. His name was Cole. Had a sleeve of tattoos and a chain he fiddled with constantly, like it was soothing him. Or maybe irritating him. Hard to tell. We were having this dead conversation about investment properties. Don't even ask why. And I glanced at my phone, mostly out of boredom. That's when I saw the text. From my sister. It said, "Call me. Please." I didn't even say anything to Cole. I excused myself to the bathroom, locked myself in a stall and called her. And I will never forget the sound of her voice when she picked up. Like she'd been crying for hours. Or days. Her husband had left. Just packed a bag and left. Told her he'd been unhappy for years and didn't know how to say it. That he was in love with someone else. That he needed to find himself. One of those movie script excuses that sound profound until they actually happen to you. Her kids were with their grandparents for the weekend. She was sitting alone in the kitchen. The same kitchen where I'd told her I was fine. And I just sat there listening. Not breathing. Taking it all in like it was happening to me. She finally said, "I have no one else I could call." And you know what I said? I said, "I'm right here." God, I wanted to mean it. But I wasn't. Not really. I was behind a locked door in a public restroom, wiping tears off my cheek with scratchy paper towel, realizing I had no idea how to be there for her because I never practiced. I'd spent my life performing comfort, not actually giving it. And she needed real. She needed me. And I didn't know how to be that person. After that night, I couldn't even look at my phone without feeling like the world was asking me a question I didn't know how to answer. I ended up calling her the next morning. Early. Like 6:30 a.m., The kind of hour where the sky is still that confused blue, and you're not sure if it's night or morning yet. She picked up on the first ring, which threw me. I hadn't expected that. She sounded tired. Not just fatigue tired. Like soul tired. I asked her if she wanted me to come over, expecting her to say no. Or later. Or say something neutral to keep up the tradition of not needing anyone. But she just said, "Can you?" Like that. Quiet. Plain. "Can you?" And I heard this soft exhale right after, like that one question had cost her more than she wanted me to hear. I threw on a hoodie over what I'd slept in and caught the early train to her house. It took me 40 minutes to get there, and I was holding my breath the whole way. When I got there, the silence hit first. The house was clean. Too clean. Like someone had scrubbed every single surface not to make it better, but to make it not exist. There were no kids' socks on the floor. No cereal bowls left over from the morning chaos. Just a weird, polished stillness. She opened the door like she hadn't slept, which she hadn't. Her eyes were glassy and puffy, and the kind of red that comes from hours of holding everything in until it leaks out by force. She looked strangely small. My big sister, who used to scare the hell out of my high school boyfriends and negotiated with cable companies like a war general, she looked like a ghost of herself. I hugged her, and it felt like hugging someone underwater. Like the pressure was all off, like gravity wasn't working right. We didn't talk at first. She sat down at the table and I sat across from her. I noticed her mug was shaking a little in her hand, so I reached over and took it from her. I don't know why I did that. It felt instinctual, like stopping a glass from tipping on its side. But even that felt like I was late. She said something like, "I don't understand how it's possible." I made him lunches, which would have been funny if it hadn't hurt so much. We talked for a little while. Not deeply. Just shallow survival talk. The "have you eaten anything?" and "do you want me to call someone?" type of stuff. The scaffolding of showing up, you know? But the real conversation didn't happen until it got dark. The kids weren't coming back until the next day, so we stayed up too late watching a bad baking show, half talking, half waiting. And then she just said out of nowhere, "I used to be scared you wouldn't need me anymore." I don't know why that cracked me the way it did. Because I was the one who felt abandoned. I was the one who sat on my apartment floor on Father's Day with no missed calls, wondering if family actually meant anything after parents die, and the rest of us scatter like emotionally repressed pigeons. But when she said it, I realized something I didn't want to believe before. We'd both been waiting on each other to show up first. I asked her why she thought that. She said, "You were always the more free one. Spontaneous. People were drawn to you. I thought you didn't really need structure. Or me. And God, if that didn't feel backward." I told her, I needed you more than I ever said. She looked at me, and it wasn't dramatic or teary. Just level. The way people do when they hear something that should have been said years ago. She said, "Then why didn't you call me?" And the honest answer? Because I didn't want her to hear how much I was falling apart. Because my grief felt messy and undignified and she was always so composed. Even in pain, she was composed. I didn't want to be the chaotic spiral in her tightly packed life. So I swallowed it, and she took my silence as absence. But it wasn't absence. It was shame in disguise. We both sat in that space, not touching it anymore, but not pretending it wasn't there either. Eventually, she said something like, "I guess we both suck at this." And we laughed. Just a breath of it. But God, that laugh felt like breathing after being underwater too long. I stayed the night. Not on the couch. On her bedroom floor, like we were kids again. She didn't ask. I just dragged a blanket in and laid there, not sleeping. Just listening to the soft sounds of her trying to. In the morning, before the kids came home, she said, "I think I have to tell them." And I knew what she meant. About why their dad wouldn't be back. I asked if she wanted me to stay. And this time, her voice didn't collapse when she said, "Yes." It felt like something cracked between us, but not in a destructive way. More like when old paint cracks and you realize there's still a solid wall underneath. A few days later, I started getting texts from her I didn't expect. Small things, a picture of her breakfast. A dumb meme I would have sent her a year ago. And, "Ugh, kill me," ran about the school fundraiser. Stupid, daily life debris that I used to miss without knowing I missed it. I sent her stuff back. I still felt like I didn't know what the hell I was doing. But I was showing up. Clumsily, awkwardly. And for the first time in a long time, I guess that was enough. It's a weird thing, rebuilding a relationship that never completely broke. Like trying to stitch up a wound that scabbed over wrong. We never stopped loving each other, me and my sister. That was never the issue. But love doesn't always mean closeness. And silence doesn't always mean absence, but sometimes it feels like it. The weeks after I stayed at her place were this strange blur of slow mending. There wasn't a dramatic reconciliation. No grand, teary-eyed speech in a parking lot. Just tiny, awkward gestures that started filling in the space between us. One day, she called me after work just to ask how to make Brussels sprouts crispy. Like, that was the whole reason she called. I didn't even know she liked Brussels sprouts. But I'll be honest, when I hung up, I sat there staring at my phone for a minute, smiling at it like a dumbass. Because outside of funerals and fallout, I don't think she'd asked me for help in years. It wrecked me in this quiet, grateful way. Some days we still spun out in opposite directions. She'd get caught up in the chaos of single parenting, and I'd get swallowed by work stuff or sheer avoidance. We'd still forget to answer each other sometimes. We were still us. But she started sending me voice notes. That was her thing now. Long voice memos while she drove or took walks. Half rants, half stream of consciousness spills about the kids, her job, the weird ache she still got when folding his old pajama pants by accident. And I'd just listen. Not always right away. Not always with something insightful to say back. But I let her unload. And eventually, she let me do the same. I told her about how I used to sit in Dad's recliner when I felt like shit, the one she gave away without asking after the funeral. I told her how it made me feel like maybe we weren't allowed to grieve the same way. She didn't get defensive. She just whispered, I didn't know. I'm sorry. I told her about the panic attacks, the weird guilt I'd carried since Dad's last week, how I'd gone outside to take a call when he passed because I thought it was just another routine moment. But it wasn't. It was the moment. And I wasn't there. She said, he knew you loved him. He knew it every single day. I believed her. Or maybe I just needed to. I think healing started somewhere in there, between stupid texts and half apologies and voice memos exchanged in traffic. One weekend, she invited me to go apple picking with the kids. It used to be a family thing. Her family. But I guess now, I'm part of that again. I didn't even want to go at first, to be honest. I hate fall activities. People pretend they're fun, but it's just standing in a field with overpriced cider and bee stings. But I went, because that's what show-up people do. And somewhere between the dumb hayride and a half-eaten caramel apple, I looked over and saw her watching me with this look. Not sad. Not grateful, even. Just sure. Like she believed I was staying. I didn't say anything, but my eyes got hot and I had to pretend to focus really hard on a photo the kids were trying to show me. Later that day, we were driving back in her car, both of us sun-tired and full in that cozy, worn sweater kind of way. The kids had fallen asleep in the back seat. She turned down the volume on the music and said, I think I waited for you, you know. Back when everything got bad. I wanted to fall apart, but I couldn't. So I waited for someone else to crack first. And when you didn't, she didn't finish the sentence. She didn't have to. I just said, I thought you'd think less of me if I lost it. She shook her head, eyes still on the road, and said, I would have held you. And that was it. I don't remember what we talked about after that. Probably something dumb. School pickup times, or the state of her brakes, or whether the dog needed another vet visit. But those words, I would have held you, burrowed somewhere under my ribs and haven't moved since. Last week, she called me late, like 11:45 p.m., which used to mean emergency. But now it just means she couldn't sleep. She said her youngest had drawn a picture in school of their new family. It was the four of them. Her, the two kids, and me. She sounded shy telling me that. A little embarrassed, maybe. But I told her, that's what we are now, right? She didn't say anything for a second. Then she said, kind of quietly, yeah, I think so. And maybe that's the real story here, not that something massive happened. Not that someone betrayed someone, or that the world blew up. Just that we almost lost each other in the quiet. And that we learned to talk again before it was too late. We didn't fix everything. Some things still feel warped, or scratched beyond repair. But love showed up in the leftover spaces. In the rebuild. In the Brussels sprouts, the meme texts, the dumb apple orchard. I used to think love was the big gesture. The speech. The collapse and rescue. Now I think it's the voice memo. The call at 11:45. The pumpkin rotting on the porch because nobody wanted to throw it out. So I just did. It's showing up, especially when it's inconvenient. It's letting someone see the bad version of you and trusting they'll stay anyway.